I'm gonna come.
Well, the time has finally come. Donald Trump was just interviewed by Joe Rogan for 3 freaking hours.
Did you just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice, they were going to love you as a president?
I figured it would be so easy.
You said a lot of wild shit.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show? I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose.
The first thing I noticed, he looks comfortable, he looks confident. I thought there would be some awkwardness at the beginning, but very little, if any at all.
You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. They're stupid people, but they're vicious people. He's a stupid son of a bitch. I'm getting myself in trouble with some of these things, but I don't really care.
You haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts. The rebels are Republicans now.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
There's an app that you can get, that will show you where the human feces has been documented in San Francisco. It's a poo app.
There's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life, because
Mars, we've had probes there and rovers.
So Joe opens up with the talking point we've heard him talk about before, about how the show The View used to talk so lovingly about him. I mean, they were in love with him.
The episode of you when you're on The View, you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
Please welcome my friend, Donald Trump. We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
Whoopi loved
you. Gives you a hug and a kiss.
It was a different life because you're right, The View. I was on The View many, many times, and they loved me. I was very popular. Barbara, you know what? Look,
it's real.
It's really mine. You know, it's like.
We've gone through a few things together over the years.
She is very sexy, I want to tell you.
He knows how to get to me. Listen, Donald, so far, there's nothing you haven't been successful at. You're a great character. You're a great friend of ours. We don't know whether you should be president, but we do know that you will enjoy watching.
But you do admit I'd be a great president.
Some of these women, they're so stupid. And Joy, she would, every time she'd see me, I'd be in the theater or something, and she'd, you have to be on the show again. Come on, let's go.
She loved you.
She loved me.
There's probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked and the way they've done it, so coordinated and systematically. When you see those same people in the past, very favorable to you, like Oprah, when you were on Oprah's show,
very.
She was encouraging you.
If I were a Democrat,
you'd get a lot of positive press.
I would get a lot of positive press.
Yeah. No, it's a creepy, corrupt business.
Then Joe asks another question that's been on his mind for a while, which is, what is it really like when you step into the office of president?
What was it like when you actually got in? Because nobody really can prepare you for that. When you're running for president, you don't really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office.
Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
I would imagine.
It's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal.
Trump begins to answer, but then he does his first weave of the day.
You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things, and they all come back brilliantly together. What you do is you get off a subject to mention another little tidbit, then you get back onto the subject, and you go through this, and you do it for 2 hours, and you don't even mispronounce one word.
You win?
Yeah.
You get inaugurated. Holy shit, I'm the president.
Yeah, that's what happened. So I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue. I just built a building on Pennsylvania, the hotel. And we sold it to the Waldorf Astoria.
Everyone's aware of all this stuff. But what I want to get to is, what was the experience once you got inside?
And I said to the guys, I want to see the Lincoln bedroom. I had never seen the Lincoln bedroom. I'd heard about the Lincoln bedroom.
What did you think it was going to be like? Versus, did you have any ideas of what it was going to be like, and what was different?
I had 2 things that I really focused on: governing the country and survival. So here I am standing there, and again, I had never really done this before. I ran a number of months before. It was a very surreal experience, okay?
What's day one like?
Sitting there, I'm saying, the Lincoln bedroom. It was amazing. And the bed, he was very tall. He was 6'6". That's your kind of
Your
person.
weave is getting wide. We're getting wide with this.
My weave is very, very important. Very few weavers around. You got to weave it out.
The man loves to weave. Some of his weaves are cool, like when he talked about the history around the Lincoln's bedroom. The man is a first-class weaver, no doubt about it. but it was clearly getting to Joe at points in the conversation.
But when you do the weaves, and you have to be very smart to do weaves, when you do the weave, look at this, just in this one thing, we're talking about little pieces all over here, but it always ends up,
home.
No, it comes back home for the right people. For the wrong people, it doesn't come back home and they end up in the wilderness, right?
Every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Another part of the podcast that I thought was really important was when Joe got Trump to talk about his appointments during his first administration. It was one of my biggest issues with his first term.
Once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people.
Yeah.
Like, how many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have
very
actually
short
you
amount
have
of
actually
time?
10,000 appointments. Now they're different. You know, you have big ones, and then they appoint 100 people and 200 people. But the president really is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments, military.
And how did you know who to appoint?
Well, I didn't. I had no experience. I had to rely on people that I respected or liked, but that I didn't know that well because I didn't know them that well. One thing I can tell you, everybody wants the position.
Of course.
No, but sometimes I'll hear a lot of people don't want to work with Trump because Trump is tough to work with, etc. Let me tell you, everybody wants to be any one of these positions. They die for it.
Of course.
The biggest mistake I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have picked. I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. And
neocons?
Yeah, neocons, or bad people, or disloyal people, or
people that were just
people
bad,
that were into the
you got bad advice.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're reading about him a little bit today. And, Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me because I'd go in with a guy like a John Bolton. When they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh man, Trump's going to go to war with us." But it's very dangerous to pick somebody outside of a politician because a politician's been basically vetted for years.
Right.
You pick a business guy, and they've never been vetted at all, and they're, the head of a big company or something, but they've never been vetted. You know nothing about his personal life. You know nothing about where he's been. When you put him in, it's a little bit dangerous because all of a sudden they get checked up and you hear things that you're saying, wow, this is not going to work out too well. So it's very dangerous. Picking people that are outside of politics is somewhat dangerous.
So you're kind of stuck in a position where you have to pick established people.
This answer was really disappointing to me. Like, how are you going to drain the swamp if you keep putting the swamp in charge? Honestly, it's sounding like he's going to do the same thing he did the first time and just appoint a bunch of establishment types. Hopefully he listens to the right people around him this time. What's more dangerous here, putting corrupt people as heads of government organizations or an outsider who might have a shady past? Like, who cares? That's a weird take from Trump on this one.
And then the problem with established people is established people are already indoctrinated into the system.
And they're stiffs in many cases.
Stiffs.
They're survivors.
What do you mean by stiffs? When you say stiffs?
A stiff, they don't have nothing. They have nothing.
And so they never do anything controversial. They never take any chances or speak their opinion that's outside of the...
Elon Musk, yes. He endorsed me. By the way, he gave me the nicest endorsement, too. The tough. He said, the country's going to fail. You should do the same thing, Joe.
So Trump is trying to get Joe to announce his support here, but Joe does not bite for 1 second. I think at this point it would be very odd if Joe was not to vote for Trump. It may be that he just doesn't want to talk about it publicly, who he's voting for, that is. Which is not a bad idea for people to say, hey, you know what? It's none of your business who I'm voting for.
Because you cannot be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you. I've watched you. I know him better than he is. You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. I have watched you for so many years. You're not a Kamala person. Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I would
if
try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, you'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her.
Kamala goes on 60 Minutes, gave an answer that a child wouldn't give. It was so bad. And 60 Minutes took the answer out. They took the whole... and they put another answer in.
They edited it deceptively.
Which didn't make sense either, but it was better. They took it wasn't editing. It was fraud.
Yeah.
This was not editing. You know,
Right.
editing is where I'll give an answer and they'll take a couple of words and change it around, or they might even take a sentence or two off, which is very bad.
You know, this would be the perfect time to introduce President Trump to the world of Pink Trip, Joe.
Do you know who Pink Trip is? Pink Trip is hilarious.
He's a stupid son of a bitch.
I wouldn't try to interview her. I just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on, trying to get her to express herself just as I don't know if I don't think these formats are good. I don't think that two people, first of all, I hate the idea of the presidential debates because I hate the idea of a time limitation on complex ideas. Also, you have to break.
I think you have to have the debates, though.
Right, but the way they do the debates, I think, is the wrong way to do it. I think they should have a conversation. I think you and Kamala, you sit across a table with no one in the room but the two of you. No one interfering with with checking whether or not it's factual, especially when it's biased, because they checked you all those times and they didn't check her with clearly things that were inaccurate, right?
I couldn't agree more with Joe right here. The current debate formats are terrible. Just let the candidates sit down and discuss things. No moderators, no nothing, just conversation. Let it go on as long as it wants until one of them quits. It ends when one of them says, I can't do it no more. If they scream, if they yell, if they fight, if they punch each other, just let it go. And may the best man or woman win.
She's a low IQ person because she's incompetent. She's not a smart person. She can't put two sentences together. She talks. I watched her last night, too. It was the same thing. She's not a smart person. I think you should take cognitive tests. I think they say it's unconstitutional, but
That's ridiculous.
I think Kamala should have a test because there's something missing. There's something wrong with her.
So Joe says there's still hope for a Kamala episode, and I think with how well this episode is going for Trump, how well it's being received by the general public, that Kamala is just going to have to do it if she wants to compete in this election. Because if she doesn't take the chance and go on Rogan when he's willing to have her on, it's like she's not even trying at this point. But please, God, make it happen. That would be so amazing. Lord, sweet baby Jesus, please. Amen.
She stole your idea about no tax for tips.
I came up with this idea that honestly nobody ever heard of. In fact, I'm going to send her a MAGA cap.
I think overall for Trump, this was a huge win. I think this is going to get him more support. It's going to make people like him even more. He really came across relatable. There did not seem to be this artificialness that you see from most politicians in interviews. He just seemed like a normal guy.
People were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him.